Hello boys, welcome back to another session of video tutorials, and this session is meant for class 11th biology students, and this is meant for 31st August 2020. Now in this session we are entering into new chapter, that is body fluids and circulation. As the name suggests, circulation, something that flows in the form of a circle. That means the fluids or substances flow from one point, that we can say origin point, goes through the process and reaches back to the original point, forming a circle. That's called circulation. Now in our body, what is to be circulated? For example, the substances, useful substances like oxygen. In previous chapter, breathing and respiration, we talked about how oxygen enters from atmosphere into our body. So it starts off with the respiratory tract, starting with the nostrils, nose, trachea, pharynx, alveoli, lungs, and from lungs we said it goes to blood, and then from blood it goes to tissues. That means oxygen will reach the final destination of tissues only when there is something. So somebody has to carry that. Who will do that? Throughout the respiratory system, if it is the partial pressure of oxygen and partial pressure of carbon dioxide, once it reaches lungs, the oxygen gets inside the lungs through alveoli, enters into blood. So blood is the medium of circulation. So once the blood carries oxygen, and that also we discussed, inside the blood RBC will be there. Inside the RBC there is a red colored pigment, hemoglobin. Hemoglobin combines with oxygen, forming oxyhemoglobin, and then oxyhemoglobin reaches to the tissues because of the anatomy of the alveoli, and finally it gives off oxygen. And we also discussed about oxygen dissociation curve. You must have understood that the very purpose of oxygen dissociation curve is that hemoglobin should dissociate oxygen in some places once it reaches cells and associate itself with oxygen in the alveoli or in the lungs. That is the purpose. So blood is the medium of circulation. So the blood flows through certain parts. So we call it as system. So blood circulatory system. This system is concerned with the circulation of body fluids to distribute various substances to various body parts. We just now gave the example of oxygen. Similarly, at the end of digestion, carbon dioxide is formed, and the carbon dioxide cannot be held within the body because it is poisonous. So carbon dioxide is to be pushed out of the body. Again, it is the blood circulatory system that helps. And then the very useful amino acids, proteins that are formed will have to be circulated throughout the body. Hence, to distribute various substances to each and every part of our body, blood circulatory system is required. So the circulatory system is also known as cardiovascular system, because cardio means heart and vascular, network of veins and arteries. That's why cardiovascular. It's an organ system that allows blood to circulate and transport nutrients such as electrolytes, amino acids, oxygen, carbon dioxide, hormones, and blood cells. So these are circulated to and from cells in the body to nourish it. The components of human circulatory system include three things. One is heart, second is the tube-like structures, as you are seeing blue ones and red ones, we call it arteries and veins, and then medium of circulation, that is blood, and connective tissues. These are the important ones. So it includes heart, blood capillaries, and the lymphatic system. So this is how the human circulatory system gets structured. So basically it is the first is the heart. You can see inside the heart 4 rooms are there. Top rooms are called auricles or atria. Down below rooms are called ventricles. So you got right atrium, that is right auricle, left atrium. Similarly, right ventricle and left ventricle. Also you must remember that whatever that red pipeline red pipelines are that they are all arteries. Red indicates purity, pure blood. And then wherever it is shown blue, that's veins. So you got a biggest vein from the heart. It's just entering inside to the heart. That's a superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. So you must remember it as vena cava. And certain arteries and veins are supplying blood, pure blood, to the upper portion of the body also. Like you can see a common carotid artery, internal jugular vein. So these are either carrying blood from heart to different parts or from different parts. Once the carbon dioxide is formed, carboxyhemoglobin is formed, that blood is coming back to the heart. From heart it goes to lungs, and then lungs purify the carbon dioxide, and again the lungs will ensure that oxygen will mix with hemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin is formed. So you can draw this diagram and identify each and every part of it. That gives you an understanding that every part, you see, it is digestive system, it is the internal organs like kidneys also you can see, and every part virtually, including the rectum, descending colon, everything is getting circulation. So draw this diagram and label it. And what are the functions of circulatory system? It transports nutrients from their sites of absorption to different tissues. So normally where are the nutrients formed? It's the small intestine. So from small intestine, the nutrients have to be supplied to each and every part, every organ, every tissue. And then oxidation of glucose, that has to take place, and synthesis of tissue components. Second, it also carries waste products of metabolism. What is the waste product of metabolism? We said carbon dioxide from different tissues to the organs meant for their excretion from the body. Second. Third, it transports respiratory gases between the respiratory organs and the tissues, O2 and CO2. And also you must understand that the waste products at the end of the metabolism, normally when protein metabolism takes place, it is the urea that is formed, and urea is again toxic. Ammonia is very toxic. These have to be removed as quickly as possible. So the toxic substances, toxic waste are to be removed. Next, it carries metabolic intermediates from one tissue to another for their further metabolism. For example, blood carries lactic acid from muscles to the liver for its oxidation. If lactic acid remains in the muscles, we will have muscle tightening or muscle catch, we say normally. So to avoid that, the lactic acid from muscles will be transported to liver, and there it gets oxidized. It also transports informational molecules such as hormones from their sites of origin to the tissue. So various hormones that are secreted from different places have to go to the target tissue. So it uniformly distributes water, protons, H plus ion, chemical substances to all over the body. These are the main functions of blood circulatory system. How many types of blood circulatory systems are there in ours? The physiology of blood circulation was first described by Sir William Harvey in 1628. The blood circulation in our body is divisible into three circuits. First one, coronary circulation. It involves blood supplied to the heart wall and also drainage of the heart wall. Coronary is that. Coronary arteries, one pair arising from aortic arch just above the semilunar valves. They break up into capillaries to supply oxygenated blood to the heart wall, because heart wall also requires oxygen. Then coronary veins, numerous, collecting deoxygenated blood from the heart wall and drains it into right auricle through coronary sinus, which is formed by joining of most of the coronary veins. And what happens every time is pulmonary circulation. It includes circulation between heart and lungs. Pulmos means lungs, I said in our previous chapter, remember? So the right ventricle pumps deoxygenated blood. I want you to see the structure of the heart. The right ventricle, ventricles are two. I said the bottom two chambers are called ventricles in the heart, and the right ventricle pumps deoxygenated blood into a single thick vessel called pulmonary aorta, and that comes down, ascends upwards, and outside heart gets divided into longer right and shorter left pulmonary arteries running to respective lungs where oxygenation of blood takes place. So the blood with the carbon dioxide from the heart comes to the lungs. It gives off, carbon dioxide will be given off in the lungs, and in the lungs oxygen is already readily available. That oxygen will be absorbed by blood and comes back to the heart. So pulmonary circulation is basically heart to lungs and lungs to heart back. So it is a circle, heart to lungs and lungs to heart back. That's how we say pulmonary circulation. And then systemic circulation, next one. In this, circulation of blood occurs between heart and body organs. The left ventricle, remember this, many times in a NEET exam this will be asked, which is the portion of heart that contains always pure blood or oxygenated blood. It is the left ventricle. Left ventricle pumps oxygenated blood into systemic arch, which supplies it to the body organs other than lungs through a number of arteries. You have seen in the diagram, many arteries are there. They carry this oxygenated blood to all parts of the body. So systemic circulation is basically heart to different parts of the body, that is oxygenated blood is supplied, and in different parts of the body the metabolism takes place. The oxygen that is carried by the blood helps in oxidation of glucose, which is there in every cell. So oxidation of glucose, as we have been discussing, generates 36 ATP molecules. Along with that some water and CO2. So this CO2 cannot be afforded to stay there. It has to be carried out. And then this CO2 again is absorbed by the same blood which brought oxygen to the parts, becomes carboxyhemoglobin, and we say in normal language impure blood, and that will be taken to lungs. So systemic circulation, we can say, is from heart to different parts of the body and from different parts of the body back to heart. This is systemic circulation. So basically, irrespective of which circulation is taking place, the medium of circulation is always blood. And you know, blood is a connective tissue. You can see here, blood is a connective tissue because it has got fluid matrix called plasma, and in this fluid matrix 3 types of formed elements will be there. Normally we say RBC, WBC, platelets. RBC, red blood cells or erythrocytes we say. White blood cells, WBC, leukocytes. Platelets, okay, and this we can see here all the 3 types: white blood cells with nucleus, red blood cells, there is no nucleus, enucleated cells, and platelets, very small ones. Let us see what they do. Plasma is a straw colored and viscous fluid. This is the only fluid part of the blood. It constitutes about 55% of the blood. About 90% of plasma is water and 6 to 8% is composed of proteins. So the major plasma proteins are, you must remember here again, fibrinogen, globulins, albumins. And fibrinogen play important role in blood clotting, or we say blood coagulation. Globulins are mainly involved in defense mechanism. So they are main our soldiers, and albumins help in osmotic balance. So small amounts of minerals like Na+, Ca2+, Mg2+, HCO3-, Cl- are also present in plasma. Plasma also contains glucose, amino acids, lipids, etc. Factors for clotting of blood are present in the plasma in an inactive form. Plasma without the clotting factors is called serum. And nowadays, you know, we have been, because of the COVID-19, we are seeing plasma transfer. All those persons who are attacked with the COVID-19 and recovered from there, the doctors will obtain the plasma and given to persons who are very seriously infected, because the plasma contains antigens. And then formed elements. The formed elements constitute about 45% of the blood. Erythrocytes, leukocytes, platelets are collectively called formed elements. Now, erythrocytes are red blood cells. The RBCs are the most abundant cells in the blood. In a healthy adult, you must remember this whenever you are going for blood test, you must check this. The pathologist will give you blood analysis. So see whether your blood has got 5 to 5.5 million or not. And it is per cubic millimeter. And RBCs are formed in bone marrow. Bone marrow is, you just take a bone, cut it vertically. Inside there is a what you call a narrow space, and that narrow space within the bone is called bone marrow. So RBCs are synthesized in bone marrow. In most of the mammals, nucleus is absent in RBC. RBCs are biconcave in shape. So it is enucleated cells. Only in, I think, camel has got nucleus. So you can remember that. The red color is because of the iron containing protein complex called hemoglobin. In a healthy adult, again, every time when you go for the blood test, you must notice this. Each 100 ml of blood should contain 12 to 16 grams of hemoglobin. If it is less than that, person is anemic. The average lifespan of RBC is 120 days. Again, this is your NEET exam question, UPSC NDA question. 120 days, 3 months, you can say, 4 months, 4 months, 4 into 30 days on an average, 120 days. RBCs are finally destroyed in the spleen. Again, this is a NEET exam question. Destroyed in the spleen, and hence a spleen is called graveyard of RBCs. Graveyard of RBC spleen. RBCs play significant role in transport of both oxygen and carbon dioxide. And these are our soldiers, white blood cells, leukocytes. So the WBC have got nucleus, RBC no nucleus. WBC have got very big nucleus and are relatively lesser in number than RBC. But then you must remember, these are our soldiers, these are our main defense system. In a healthy adult, about 6,000 to 8,000 WBCs are present per cubic millimeter of blood. So whenever there is infection, these numbers will come down. Our soldiers may fall when fighting with the enemy. So the numbers keep on coming down. So in order to make them strong, we must have strong immune system. So leukocytes are generally short-lived. There are two main categories of WBC: granulocytes and agranulocytes. Granules will be there. Absence of granules. So granulocytes, neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, and agranulocytes, lymphocytes, and monocytes. So neutrophils are the most abundant cells among WBC and comprise about 60 to 65%. Monocytes comprise about 6 to 8% of WBC. Neutrophils and monocytes are phagocytic cells. Phagocytis means eating off. They kill the enemy by eating off. And basophils, they secrete histamine, serotonin, heparin. They are involved in inflammatory reactions. So basophils normally help us in giving indications of possible infection. And eosinophils, it's comprised 2 to 3% of WBC. These resist infections and are also associated with allergic reactions. Eosinophils, allergy. And lymphocytes, these comprise 20 to 25% of WBC, and these are two major types of lymphocytes: B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. These are, we can say, commander-in-chiefs. Okay, they are commander-in-chiefs, B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. Both these types are responsible for our immune response of the body. So we must take care of this 20 to 25% of lymphocytes. Then comes the last one, platelets. These are known as thrombocytes. They are cell fragments produced from megakaryocytes. Megakaryocytes are special cells in the bone marrow. Usually, you must remember this, 1 cubic millimeter of blood contains 1,50,000 to 3,50,000 platelets. Sometimes people will be having even 4 lakhs also. Platelets can release a variety of substances. Most of these substances are involved in blood clotting. So since they are called thrombocytes because they have thrombosin protein and thrombokinase. So So that helps in blood coagulation. So overall, you got these are the formed cells of blood: platelets, RBC, and WBC, 5 types: neutrophils, monocytes, lymphocytes, and eosinophils and basophils. And tomorrow we will be studying about, based on this, blood groups. How what are the blood groups that human beings will be having. So in this session, what I wanted you is you practice the diagram, label it, understand whether it is carrying oxygenated blood or deoxygenated blood, from where